Well, folks, let's just say things weren't exactly peaky for those caught up in the midst of armed conflict during World War II. It was pretty much the equivalent of being stuck in a hurricane with a bullseye on your back. Being a soldier during war was already a risky gig. But for some, the odds of making it out alive were even lower. But don't worry, I've got some juicy, untold stories for you. We're talking about the brave souls who were tasked with some seriously dangerous missions. These were the special jobs that made being a soldier during the war even more perilous. So, buckle up and get ready to learn about the brave soldiers who risked it all to carry out these missions. B-17 spherical turret operator during World War I and II. Large bomber planes such as the B-17 Flying Fortress and B-24 Liberator took to the skies, completing missions and attacking enemy fleets, military posts, and cities. This resulted in countless casualties, including the brave gunners who operated the spherical turrets on these planes. The Sperry Corporation designed these plexiglass ball-shaped turrets equipped with machine guns and the ability to rotate 360 degrees. However, operating these turrets was a dangerous and grueling task. The interior was cramped, barely 4 feet wide, and the entrance was just a hatch in the floor. The gunners had to contort themselves into a fetal position for hours, making it difficult to maneuver the turrets. To make matters worse, they were forced to do so without their parachutes, greatly reducing their chances of survival in the event of a plane crash. Over time, the spherical turrets became a favorite target of enemy fighters and were often the first to be attacked. The brave soldiers who operated these turrets risked their lives to protect their aircraft and complete their missions. As a tank operator during World War II, every day was filled with peril and uncertainty. Despite the protection offered by the sturdy armor and powerful weaponry, the dangers faced by these soldiers were just as great as any other on the battlefield. The cramped and challenging living conditions, combined with the threat of enemy fire, made the role of a tank operator one of the toughest and most dangerous in the war. The tank operators lived in constant fear of the devastating power of enemy anti-tank guns, which could penetrate their defenses and kill the entire crew in a single, brutal hit. Survivors often spoke of the traumatic experiences they faced, including the loss of close comrades and the fear that their own tank could be next. In addition to the threat of enemy fire, the living conditions of a tank operator were far from comfortable. The limited space and resources, along with the grueling transfer and combat operations, made life a constant struggle. The physical and emotional toll of the role was immense, and the soldiers who served as tank operators did so with bravery and determination in the face of overwhelming odds. Overall, the life of a tank operator during World War II was one of constant danger, hardship, and sacrifice. These soldiers faced some of the most challenging and traumatic experiences of the war, and their bravery and determination in the face of these difficulties is a testament to their strength of character and the deep commitment to their cause. Being a soldier in the Red Army during the Great Patriotic War was a grueling and often hopeless experience. The soldiers were thrust into battle against Hitler's powerful Nazi army, who launched a massive offensive on June 22, 1941 with the goal of conquering Russia and seizing its valuable resources. Despite their best efforts, the Red Army was initially thrown into disarray, with many soldiers retreating in a desperate bid to save their lives. But then came a turning point as Joseph Stalin issued Order No. 227 on July 28, 1942, requiring all soldiers to remain on the battlefield and fight until their last breath. Disobedience was not an option, with severe consequences including execution by their own comrades. This brutal decision placed an immense burden on the Red Army soldiers, who were already fighting in the most trying of circumstances. They were forced to endure some of the harshest conditions and make unspeakable sacrifices, all while fighting a seemingly hopeless battle against an enemy with superior military strength. The motto "not a single step back" may have given them some comfort, but it could not ease the burden of the constant fear and overwhelming odds they faced. The Red Army soldiers will always be remembered for their bravery and perseverance in the face of adversity, but it is important to acknowledge the true difficulty of their role. They suffered greatly and made countless sacrifices in their fight to protect their motherland. Their spirit and determination will never be forgotten, but the horrors of their experience will serve as a sobering reminder of the toll war can take on those who must fight it. Being a kamikaze pilot during World War II was arguably one of the worst roles a person could have been assigned. These individuals were trained to fly their planes into enemy ships, knowing full well that it would result in their deaths. The tragedy of this situation lies in the fact that their ultimate sacrifice was in vain, as their actions failed to turn the tide of the war. In 1944, the Japanese Prime Minister ordered the creation of this special unit in a last-ditch effort to stop the unstoppable advance of American naval power. With no other options left, young men were selected for this grueling and heart-wrenching task, with the goal of sinking as many enemy fleets as possible. However, despite their bravery and determination, the Japanese kamikaze pilots could not overcome the sheer might of the American military. In the end, the war came to a close just 1 year later, with the Japanese surrender following the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. For the kamikaze pilots, their fate was sealed. They took to the skies on one final, fateful mission, and in the process, lost their lives in a selfless and futile act of bravery. It is a truly haunting reminder of the human cost of war and the devastating effects it can have on those caught in its wake. The Strafbattalion, a term synonymous with fear and punishment, was a living nightmare for soldiers of the Nazi army during World War II. Their acts of disobedience or troublemaking earned them a place in this notorious division, where they would be sent to perform the most grueling and dangerous tasks imaginable. Established in 1935 as a form of discipline, the Strafbattalion became a source of cannon fodder for the Nazi regime, as they were also made up of civilians deemed undesirable by the state, such as homosexuals, political opponents, and religious minorities. These soldiers were barely trained and equipped with rudimentary gear, often sent into battle with no means of defense. The tasks assigned to the Strafbattalion were the epitome of danger, from transporting the wounded to clearing minefields and taking over enemy machine gun nests. They were constantly in harm's way, with death lurking at every turn. Their bravery and luck were put to the test on a daily basis as they struggled to survive in a world filled with violence and hatred. As we look to the future and the possibility of another war, it is imperative that we remember the terrible experiences of the soldiers in the Strafbattalion. They serve as a reminder of the horrors of conflict and the sacrifices that must be made. Whether they were the best men for the job or simply punished, they endured one of the worst roles in the Nazi army during the Second World War. Are you fascinated by the dark and hidden tales of the past? Then you won't want to miss a single episode of our channel. Subscribe now to be the first to experience the thrilling stories that shape our world. Your passion for history will be satisfied with every new video, so don't hesitate and hit that subscribe button today.